Oh, it is my paperweight. Okay, awesome. Y'all are too sweet. Okay, I can't do this. I gotta take this off. I'm used to be a singer, so I can't do that. Um, I want to start by saying thank you to all of you for giving your time and being here today with us for this important discussion. Um, I know that you have morning tours, you have evening tours, you have tours in between. And so just the fact that you are willing to give your time to be here and to be a part of this movement means very much. It means a lot to us. It means everything. I want to thank all of the speakers who have freely given their time to be here, the legislators who just want to be part of the conversation and want to hear what we have to say. I want to thank Samantha for really doing all the work to help me put all this together. She has been amazing. And I also want to thank the property owners, Andy and Camelia, for allowing us to host this here and opening up their property to us. So yeah, big round of applause for all of them. I'm not a public speaker, so y'all just gonna have to forgive me on this. My name is Dawn Gorham, and with my husband T. Gorham, we run the Gorham Homestead over in Dixon, not too far from here. My husband T is an attorney, and I spent 25 years as a deputy clerk in General Sessions Court in Nashville, Tennessee, before I retired to become a milk cow farmer. I just wanted to milk some cows. I want to be left alone, get out of politics, mind my own business, and just hang out with some cows. And so that's what I thought I was doing. That's what I was doing for a little while anyway. But that background, that 25 years in the legal field, has given me a pretty good insight into how the legal system works and how at times it overreaches. And so today what we're going to talk about a little bit, well, let me say this first about me. I'm not anybody important. I'm really not. I'm not a legislator. I'm not a lobbyist. I'm not a public figure. The only reason that I'm even up here today at all is because of what happened to me recently. And so that's what I wanted to talk to you all about and give you some legal insight as to what happened and what I did, what steps I took, and what steps you can take to protect yourself. I'm just a little dairy mama. I love to advocate for freedom in any area that I feel government creeping in. And I'm one of those people that if you poke the bear, I come out with claws. I can't help it. I'm Gen X. That's how I was raised. I'm a country girl. You know how we are. We know how we mamas are. My passion and my heart, though, is with raw milk. That is the industry that I love and the industry that I'm passionate about. And I love being a part of this area of food. I love being a part of this industry because we are not a group that compete. We are a collaborative group. We help each other. When my milking machine went down a couple of months ago, I was in tears hand milking my cows, and it took me 4 hours to hand milk my cows. And when my friend Stephanie got wind of that, she sent me her milking machine so that I could not have to hand milk these cows until I could get my parts replaced. So that's the kind of industry that we're in. We support each other and help each other because we all believe that the rising tide floats all boats, right? That's right. And there's enough raw milk customers to go around for all of us. And the more that people learn about the health benefits of raw milk, the more customers there's going to be, and the more this industry is going to grow. Last time I looked, I did some research a couple of weeks ago, and when I looked, the grade A dairies, there used to be hundreds and hundreds of grade A dairies in Tennessee. Well, there's 135. And the grade B dairies is now down to 35. There's 750 of us. We have grown exponentially, and it is going to continue to grow. So it's time that we not only have some legislators in our corner, it's time that we have a seat at the tables. And so that's what we're doing. That's why I wanted to bring you all together today. That's why I wanted to have this summit, this high calling of conversation, so that we could all have this conversation about what we are going to do together as one voice, as one team going forward to protect raw milk, to protect food freedom, to protect every aspect of the small farmer going forward. Okay. And I have to have my notes. I'm not good at just winging it. But the day that I want to talk about the day that the state showed up on my property, they did not have a warrant. They did not have an administrative order. They didn't call. They didn't email. They didn't send a messenger pigeon, smoke signal, nothing. They just showed up unannounced and pilfered through my stuff like they owned the place. I was not down at my farm store at the time. I was up at the house babysitting my grandson. And one of my workers sent me a message and said, hey, there's cord was wedged in your door, and sent me a picture of it. And I was like, that's the Department of Agriculture. That's weird. So I was like, and it never even occurred to me that they were there for any malicious intent whatsoever. I honestly thought they were in the wrong place. So I called, and the guy answered the phone, and he said, he said, what's your name? And I said, Don Gorham. And what's your farm name? The Gorham Homestead. He said, oh, yeah. And I was like, uh-oh. So he transferred me to somebody else because apparently the little girl who'd been there and pilfered through all my stuff hadn't made it back to the national office yet. And so he transferred me, and the guy answered the phone, and I said, so there was somebody at my place and they left a card. And he was like, oh, yeah, we're there to do an inspection. And I was like, and of course my hair on the back of my neck went up. And I said, no, I'm not subject to inspection. I operate a private herd share. And he said, well, I understand now. Our problem is not with your milk. I was like, oh, so nobody's sick. No. I said, okay, well, what are you there for? Well, then he told me they had been through all of my refrigerators. That's how I knew. They told on themselves. They told me they went through my stuff. And he said he'd been through all my Facebook page. He'd been through my website. He looked at everything that I had to offer. And they were concerned that I was offering yogurt and butter. And I was like, yeah, okay. Yes, I offer yogurt and butter to my customers. So he proceeded to tell me that the only thing that I was allowed to offer to my herd share customers was raw, fluid, white milk. Can't put chocolate in it. You can't freeze it. Got to be raw, fluid, white milk. So we argued back and forth on this for a minute, and I quoted the AG opinion and said, no, that was changed. And he was standing his ground, and I was getting madder. So when I realized what was happening, I promptly said, you know what? You need to call my lawyer, who also happens to be my husband, and here is a cell phone number. And so that his phone changed pretty quick. So it's like, oh, okay. What was that number again? And so I gave him the cell phone number again. And so my next phone call was to my husband to let him know what had happened so that he could get that on his radar. And my second communication was to the Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund so that they could be aware of what happened. And it occurred to me, so that moment was pivotal in me changing how I looked at everything on my farm. Like my contracts, my trespassing signs, my door, my gates, like everything. I had to reevaluate everything about how I operated. When we all know there's a risk, right? We all know that any given day there's a risk that the Department of Agriculture is going to show up on your doorstep, but you don't think it's going to happen until it does. And unfortunately, I don't think they realized when they picked me that they were poking the bear, like for real. They could have picked somebody that wasn't married to an attorney, for one thing. I mean, unfortunately, the average person who doesn't have any sort of legal background would have been really freaked out by that incident. And because I had enough legal background and I knew my Fourth Amendment right, I had enough wherewithal to, I called Samantha, who then put me in touch with Michelle, and they also put me in touch with Jody Barrett. So I started making those connections, and those legislative connections are so important Because now, as a result of that, I've actually had the opportunity to have a phone call conversation with our new Department of Agricultural Commissioner, Andy Holt. So something great came out of a really unfortunate situation, but you've got to know your rights. You've got to know what you can and can't do, what you shouldn't and shouldn't say. But what the law actually says, let's talk about that for just a second. Not rumor, not agency preference, but what the statute actually says. TCA 53-3-119 says that an independent or partial owner of a hoofed mammal may use the milk of that mammal for the owner's personal consumption or other personal use. Now, or other personal use is a very important part of that statute. They left it vague on purpose. They could have specifically excluded, let me get back over there, lost my spot. They could have specifically excluded butter, yogurt, all of that stuff in the statute had they wanted to, but they didn't. And they didn't say no butter, no cheese. They could have written those restrictions in, but so what does other personal use mean in plain English? It means that if you own the herd, you can use your milk however you choose it. You can drink, skim it, churn it, culture it, age it into cheese, whatever it is that you want to do. And under Tennessee law, the agency. So this is where the agency relationship comes in, y'all. We need to hang our hats just a little bit less on that AG opinion because it's so vague, and a little bit more into the agency clause. It's kind of important to have agency law written into your contracts if you don't have that already. When your shareholders buy into your herd, they become owners, and you as the farmer become their agent. The person that they have appointed to care for the herd, milk it, and handle the product on their behalf. And under Tennessee law, and this is basic property and contract law, anything the agent does for them is for them. The ownership never changes hands. They are collective owner of all the milk that you produce. So when you're churning butter or bottling milk, that's not a sale, that's an act of agency. And you are legally allowed to do it. You're handling their property for their personal use. Them saying that you can't do that is like them saying, okay, so you, the farmer, cannot make butter or yogurt for them, but they can pick up their milk, they can take it to Joe Blow, your neighbor down the road, and they can have them turn it into butter and yogurt, and that's just fine. But you, the person who actually knows how to handle milk, knows the proper way of making all of these products, are not allowed to do that. And it's asinine. It makes absolutely no sense. A reasonable person would never interpret the statute that way. They're doing it because they want to. There are some things that the legislature actually requires under the Tennessee Chapter 714. We are required to have a written herd share contract. The contract must include the raw milk warning label. You must do so list of your members for 3 years after they leave. You've got to notify members and the Tennessee Department of Agriculture if contamination is found and pause your distribution until it's cleared, or you could be fined $500 for noncompliance. That's not per person, that's per instance. That was one of the questions that I had to clarify because I was not sure. I was like, ooh, they're gonna fine me $500 per member? And it's $500 per instance. But notice where in what they require of us in that does not say, there's no mention of white milk only. There's no restriction on making butter, yogurt, kefir, or cheese. No language forbidding processing for personal use. And that's because the legislature drew a clear line between private herd share ownership and commercial dairy sales. Herd shares are private contracts. The Grade A pasteurized milk ordinances applies to retail dairies and not our private herd share contracts. Now, there are some safeguards that have recently come to light that we recommend that all micro dairies or any small dairy, any small farm for that instance, to put in place. One of the things that you should do is make sure that you have a rock solid contract. I went back and revamped after this because I just wasn't sure and put the agency clause in my contract. not sanctioned by the Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund. We kind of went back and forth with them on that as well. But I feel because of what's happening in Tennessee, it is very important that your shareholders designate you as their agent for processing the milk, not just for milking the herd. So think about putting that in there. And if you want to have it reviewed by an ag attorney or Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund, form a legal entity. Run your herd share through an LLC to protect your personal assets. Keep separate books for your herd share operations and other farm income. Post private property signs everywhere. Everywhere. Keep your milking rooms locked if you can with a code for your customers. And don't allow unannounced access to production areas. Document everything. Keep clean records of your milk testing, your animal health, your cleaning logs, your member roster. So if you are ever questioned, your paperwork will speak for you. Having been 25 years as a deputy clerk, pushing paperwork for the legal system, I can tell you clean paperwork is everything. It will save your butt when you need it the most. Make sure your shareholders understand that they do own part of the herd and that they accept the risks that do come with raw milk. And there are risks, and we have to make sure that our herd share members understand that. Transparency builds trust, and trust keeps you strong when outside forces show up, and it keeps our entire raw milk community strong. If the state does show up, let's talk about what to do if they show up. First of all, stay calm and polite. It is a blessing on that sweet little girl's heart that I was not down there at my building when she showed up. It is. I thank God every day that I now have had the internal ability to process this and to understand that they might show up now. Because if I had gone down there in the midst of all that, it would have gone worse for her than it would have for me. So, that being said, though, now that we all know it's a possibility and even a probability at this point, be prepared for it. Be polite. Don't give them any reason to call you uncooperative or anything like that they can put in their records. Ask for their credentials and say, can you please show me a specific law that points to what you're claiming? And don't allow entry without proper documentation. Unless they have a warrant or a written administrative order, you are not legally required to let them in. Don't do it. Catch them in your driveway and ask them to leave. Don't show them around. Don't let them look at your cows. Don't let them stand on your porch. Don't let them get out of their car if you can help it. Ask them to leave your property immediately. Call for help. Contact your attorney or Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund immediately. That's exactly what they're there for. Let your legislators know. And then follow up in writing. Send a letter summarizing what happened and ask them for clarification on the legal basis of their visit. Make them tell you why they trespassed on your property and document it. If you stay calm and respectful and informed, they will think twice before trying to step on another farmer's farm or your farm again. Join the Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund if you haven't already. I know a lot of us are. First, how many of us are raw milk farmers? Oh, no. How many of you actually milk cows? Okay. How many of you actually are part of the Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund? Fantastic. Okay. How many of you have ever actually contacted your legislator about something to do with raw milk? Fantastic. Keep it up. All right. That's what I wanted to know. If you take one piece of advice from me today, it's to join that, build productive relationships with your legislators, support constitutional candidates who believe in the right to food freedom, support people like Monty and Michelle and John Llewellyn and Will Bolton and Jody Barrett. I don't know if he's here today, but it's his birthday. Oh, Jody! Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. I thought you would sing you happy birthday. You're Jody. Happy birthday to you and many more. Yeah, so support Jody. He's one of us. Just like he said, he wasn't lying. I saw that print somewhere. Did y'all see that? Yeah. All right, so, yeah, support the people who support us. And these people are not just for big farmers. They're for us. They're for the small producers, the herd share families, the homesteaders, And most importantly, they believe in our Constitution. And that's what we want. If you join the Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund, they will review your contracts. They will help you with your contracts. They will be there in an emergency to help you. A membership is affordable, and it's the best insurance you can buy if you're serious about raw milk. So in closing, when the state showed up at my farm, I didn't panic. Well, okay, I did, but not real bad. I panicked for a little second, and then I got madder than a wet hen. And so she probably, like I said, she probably ought to be glad that I wasn't down there. But we knew the law, and we knew the difference between guidance and authority. Oh, that's what I missed. Hold on, I missed something. So we talk about this raw fluid white milk, right? And so we have another herd share farm that got an email from their local extension office that was explaining to them, and all she was doing was looking for how to do her herd share contract. And she got lambasted with all this information back saying, oh, you be sure that you're only doing the raw fluid white milk, and you can't do butter, and you can't do yogurt. And all this is in an email from the county extension office. Well, I did some digging, and what I found out is where all this raw white milk language came from. It's actually from guidance that was put out from the health department. And somewhere along the way, the Tennessee Department of Agriculture and the county extension, the UT extension office, has picked up this language and started regurgitating it as if it's law. And it's not. Guidance is where they can tell you what they would like for you to do. Law is what the statutory requirements actually are. So just because they tell you that you have to do something or you can't do something, most of the time they're posturing, or they don't know. I think most of them genuinely don't know, because that's the guidance that has been shoved down their throat. So when somebody comes to you with that and tries to start telling you can't do this, you just need to say, yeah, I can, and just move on. But our herd share community is built on trust, not fear. And we're on transparency and not secrecy. We're on stewardship and not submission. If we keep standing together, legally informed, united, and courageous, we'll protect food freedom, not just for ourselves, but for our children and our grandchildren, for these little people sitting here at these tables. That's what I'm worried about. I'm not milking cows forever. I'm probably done in 5 more years. My body can handle it. I'm worried about you. I'm worried about who's coming after you. And I want our kids to know the same ability to have real food as we have had and we enjoy. Food freedom isn't rebellion. It's responsibility. It's community. It's the right to produce, share, and consume the real food that God gave us, without government standing between us and our fundamental right to feed ourselves and our community. Don't think it won't happen to you. Not a single one of us is immune from government overreach. Your fight is my fight, and my fight is your fight. Because a fight for freedom anywhere is a fight for freedom everywhere. I love y'all.